How do you think on the spot and at the same time sound intelligent? I'm going to show you a few ways that you can start speaking in an articulate way with absolutely no preparation. Before we start talking about these strategies, we must understand what is happening in the brain when something uncertain happens, when we're given a question on the spot and we're not quite sure what to say. For this example, let's suppose you just finished a presentation and someone asks you a question and right away you are confused and you don't know what to do. What immediately happens in the brain is it starts to produce adrenaline. You start to get a little nervous. And as you start to get nervous, your body starts to shake a little bit. All of this is happening very, very quickly. You start to get a lot of thoughts. Different pieces of information start popping up in your brain. But the problem is, where do you start? So oftentimes, because we don't know what to say, we'll just start talking and talking and talking, and we hope we find the answer along the way. But here's the problem: when we do that, we keep talking and talking and talking, and then we're just rambling. We're going on in all different directions, and there's absolutely no structure. For example, if I asked you right now, tell me, what's your favorite fruit? Now, you might be thinking about several fruits at the same time pop up, and you're not quite sure which one's your favorite. So you might say something like, I like this fruit, and I also like this one. You know what? I also like this one. I'm not really sure. All of them are really good. Can you see how you're going all over the place and there's no structure to your speaking? You have probably seen this with your friends. You ask them a simple question, or when someone's really nervous and they're guilty, they're asked a really simple question, and they just start talking and talking and talking, and they're not really going anywhere. Not only are you wasting the other person's time, but you don't look credible. You don't sound like someone who knows what they're talking about. This is where we introduce a speaking structure. What a speaking structure will allow you to do is to take all of these different options that you have and pick the one that you want to talk about. Let's have a look at an example. The question is, what is your favorite app on your phone? When you hear this question, immediately a whole bunch of apps pop up in your mind. You like Instagram, you like Facebook, you like Spotify, maybe even Amazon. And you're wondering, where do I even start? Which one do I pick? Which one is actually my favorite? What do I say once I pick the one? And all of this results in confusion and you don't know where to start. Here's a structure you can follow right away to speak very, very quickly. And it starts by picking the answer. So instead of talking about all of them at the same time, you can say, one of the apps that comes to mind immediately has to be Spotify. Now you have an answer. Why is this so important? It's important because now you've given yourself direction. You know what to talk about. Previously, you had 4 options. You didn't know where to start, how much of what to talk about. Now you know Spotify is my favorite app. I can talk about Spotify. So it gives you direction right off the bat. Step 1 is going to be make your point. Take some time to think if you need to, but in the first sentence, answer the question. This will put you at ease because you know what you're talking about. It will also put the other person at ease because now they know you've answered the question. Now, how do you talk about that information for a lot longer? Expand and provide context for your answer. Why is Spotify your favorite app? You would provide a reason. So the reason you like Spotify could be that every single time you go to the gym, you can't really find the right music, and Spotify has an algorithm where every single week it automatically finds music that it knows you really like, so you always know when you go to the gym you have amazing music to listen to. That could be your reason. And you could have 1 reason, you can have 3 reasons, you can have 5 reasons. But when you're starting out, try to pick between 1 and 3. It's just the easiest thing to do. Sometimes people say 3 reasons and then they pigeonhole themselves and they can't think of 3. I like to say this is my answer, and the reason I say that is because, and you go into your reasoning. Now, if you are giving a longer speech or presentation, what you also want to include here is an example or a story. It's very difficult to come up with several reasons. Point 1, what's point number 2, what's reason number 3, you need reason number 4. Now your brain has to work really hard. But if you can think of one specific example or one specific story, then you automatically know the sequence of all of the events and you can tie them together, and you don't need to constantly think of the next thing to say. So in this example, I could say, my favorite app is Spotify. The reason I love it is because of the algorithm. For example, last week I was traveling to Montreal and I went to the gym there and I just did not have any music downloaded. But luckily for me, Spotify already knew what kind of music I liked. It connected to the Wi-Fi there. It found me some new music and I was ready to go. Now I've given you an example or a story to illustrate my reasoning. Now this story could be a minute long, it could be 10 minutes long, and it really helps fill in the time if you really need to. Now the last and most crucial one in my opinion, this is where most people make their mistakes, is that they don't know how to end. They'll tell the story and then they will just stop talking. And why this is an issue is because you lose that impact at the end, just putting that stamp in. For example, I like Spotify because it generates good music for me. Can you tell how it's a little awkward? You don't know I'm done talking? So here, you want to mention your point again to close. So what this would sound like is, when I went to Montreal, Spotify recommended me music. That's why Spotify is my favorite app. Do you have any question about whether I'm done talking or not? You're pretty sure I'm done because I stamped it at the end. A mistake people make here is that they close and then they continue talking. That's why Spotify is my favorite app. And another reason I can think of is ABC. Now they keep talking and talking and talking when the audience expected them to stop talking. What I really like about this structure is that you can use it to answer questions for any length of time. Let's say your boss asks you a question and you just need to answer directly. You just answer by making the point. What's the update on this project? Are we going to be able to get this done by Monday? No, it's going to be delayed. We're expecting it done by next Tuesday instead. You've just made your point. But if you need to provide more reasoning, if you need to provide a longer answer, then you can have a point and a reason. If you still need to provide a longer answer, you can do point, reason. And if your reason is a minute to a minute and a half long, then you can do point, reason, point. This is the one that I use the most when people ask me questions in a workshop, or if you need to give a very, very large example, or you want to make sure people understand the concept, then you can do point, reason, example, or story, and then point again. I have done entire hour-long keynotes by only using this and having absolutely no preparation. This is my personal favorite framework to use, but you can use some other ones as well. There's one called PIE, point, illustrate, example. Very similar, very direct. Another common one is pros, cons, and then your choice. Is iPhone better than Android? This is what iPhone does better. This is what it does worse. In my personal opinion, I think iPhone is better than Android. And it is. A really popular one in interviews is the STAR method. What was the situation? What was the task you did? What was the action? And what was the result? Can you see how when you have a structure, it makes it a lot easier for you to come up with material to say instead of memorizing the entire answer? Now let's look at how you can practice this so you get very used to using this on a regular. There are two main methods that I recommend. The first one is an exercise. I recommend doing this for 30 days. You'll go to ChatGPT and you'll tell ChatGPT, this is what I do for a living, or these are some of the topics that I'm really interested in that I talk about a lot. Can you give me a random question to answer? ChatGPT will generate a question. All you're going to do is you're going to record yourself answering that question on the spot. And don't worry, it's going to be messy. It's not going to be great. The format will feel super iffy. A lot like when you're learning a dance move for the first time, it feels really weird. You look really awkward when you're doing it, but then the longer you do it, you understand how to do it. Same exact concept. You'll answer about 5 questions a day, and then you'll review this footage back, and you'll become aware of what you're doing and what you're saying. Not only are you practicing, but you're becoming aware of what your answers sound like. And the more repetition you do, eventually you get very used to talking like this, where you're able to come up with a story on the spot. Now, the second method is for you if you talk about the same topics a lot, for example, at your company or for your business, you don't want to make this critical mistake. Let's say you're pitching a product and at the end you get asked, how much is this? Why is this so expensive? Your competitors can do this for a lot less. Will this even work? I'm not sure if your method works. You'll have a really tough time thinking about this on the spot because you have to come up with a reasoning. You have to come up with a rationale behind it. You have to sound convincing. You have to deliver it in a confident way. And if you're using stories, metaphors, or analogies, they have to be succinct when you're speaking. And at the same time, you're very aware of how they're reacting. The problem is if you're trying to do all of this together, your brain is just not going to be able to process all of that information. So the biggest mistake people make is they think about the thing they know they're going to speak about in the moment. If you look at salespeople, if you look at people who are prepared for their interview, one thing they'll do is that they will rehearse out loud the unexpected. They will know what the objections are. They will know what the questions are, and they will prepare out loud ahead of time. This is what you do. You're going to create a quick document and you're going to list down questions or topics on one side. And on the opposite side, you're going to have one quick story, one quick analogy, one rationale. So for sales, you could list down every single thing someone says to you when they're buying your product. This is too expensive. It's not going to work. I have to think about it. And for each of them, you're going to write 1 or 2 sentences so you know what to say. Think of this like your cheat sheet. If you're going to a networking event, you can drill questions like, tell me about yourself. What do you do? Tell me about your company. Most people just don't know the answer to these questions because they've never practiced them. Now that you've prepared your cheat sheet, write down 10 to 15 questions, and every day all I want you to do is practice 5 of them. You'll read one question, have a look at what you wrote, and then practice saying it out loud. And do it every single day. So then when you were speaking and someone asks you one of those questions, you will speak really fast, you'll sound very articulate, and people will say, wow, how did he sound so articulate on the spot? Well, you sounded really articulate on the spot because you had already done your preparation on things that you talk about all the time. If you think about the 2 types of brains we have, one is a conscious side, which is very analytical, and the other one is the automatic side, which just automatically knows what to do. So if I were to ask you to tie your shoelaces, the automatic part of the brain would automatically do it. But if you didn't know how to tie your shoelaces, your conscious part of the brain would be trying to figure out how to do it. So when you are in an interview or you are speaking on the spot, you don't want to operate from the conscious brain because then you are analyzing and dissecting, and that takes time. It's very slow. If you were walking down the street and I told you, hey, make sure that your leg is moving correctly, make sure your hands are also moving, your chin is up here, your back is straight when you're walking, it's going to make walking much worse because now you're thinking about 6 different things because you're conscious about everything. But if I just told you walk from here to there, your automatic brain would just do it. It takes all of these different parts of your body and combines them together in an instant. This is where you want to be speaking from. When you practice and rehearse, you are speaking from the automatic brain. It just comes to you. When you are practicing and planning all these questions, here is where you operate in the conscious brain. So practice in the conscious brain so that when you are asked questions on the spot, you can speak right away from your automatic brain. Remember, when you get asked a question or you're given a topic, the problem is that your mind has too many inputs and it doesn't know what to choose on the spot, so you have to give it direction by picking one. Once you pick one, you follow the PREP or the PRP format, depending on how long you have to speak for, so you can come up with things to say. Some other ones you can use are the PI format, PCC, or the STAR format. There are many others as well. And you want to make sure that you are practiced and rehearsed ahead of time and you are doing these exercises every single day. If you just do this, I promise you, you're going to speak in a more articulate way than 99% of the human population. Now, if you want to see an entire workshop where I teach people to do exactly this, go watch this video up next.